More than warriors, they were thinkers, masters of strategy. They built roads that still exist. They shaped laws that still guide us. But on the battlefield, the Romans were something else entirely. And sometimes their tactics were so ruthless, so unexpected, that they didn't just win battles, they crushed their enemy's spirit. This was an army built on discipline, fear, and precision, an unstoppable machine that didn't just fight harder, but smarter. Their enemies never saw it coming, and when they did, it was already too late. Welcome to Long History Short. Today, we uncover the secrets behind the Roman army's craziest battle tactics, the ones that truly shocked the ancient world. First, the Testudo, the living tank. Imagine this, rows of soldiers marching slowly forward, their shields locked together so tightly that not even an arrow could slip through. Shields in the front, shields on top, shields on the sides. From a distance, it looked like a living tank made out of metal and muscle. This was the Testudo, meaning tortoise in Latin, and its name made perfect sense. The Testudo had an impenetrable defense. Archers would rain down arrows, but nothing got through. Spears bounced off, rocks were useless, and even fire couldn't reach the men beneath. The enemy would watch in horror as this wall of shields crept closer and closer, seemingly unstoppable. Roman commanders employed the Testudo in multiple instances, but particularly during sieges, enabling their men to cross open ground under heavy fire and march directly to the enemy's walls. It wasn't just defense, it was domination. There was a catch to the success. The Testudo was slow, very slow. If enemies got too close or attacked from the sides, the formation could be broken. But for most enemies, who had never seen anything like it, it was a message. We are coming, and you can't stop us. Rome's second most terrifying method was the triple line, or Acies Triplex, the endless wall. This was one of the most brilliant and shocking battle tactics the ancient world had ever seen. Thousands of Roman soldiers took their places like pieces on a giant chessboard, but this was no ordinary wall of men. It stood 3 lines deep, built to wear the enemy down slowly, surely, without mercy. The triple line unfolded in a layered fury. First, at the front were the hastati, young, strong, and ready to charge. Next, the principes, older and more experienced. And finishing off the enemy was the triarii, seasoned veterans, calm and silent, waiting for the right moment. The real champion in the triple line approach was the pure, relentless pressure. The battle didn't start with everyone charging at once. Light soldiers, the velites, would skirmish, then slip back through gaps. Then the hastati charged. If they couldn't break the enemy, they retreated through gaps. Only when things were critical, when it came to the triarii, did these veterans step in and clean up the others' mess. Soldiers in the triple line swapped in and out like clockwork, never letting the enemy rest. This formation could adapt to flat ground, hills, and forests. It was like a machine, a human war machine. Next, we have the Wedge, also known as the Spearhead of men. The Wedge looked like a triangle made of soldiers, narrow at the front, wide at the back. But this was not just about shape, it was a weapon itself, a hammer and a dagger, a weapon made of men, shields, swords, and unstoppable force. Roman commanders used it when they needed to break through enemy lines, particularly when the enemy stood in a solid wall, shoulder to shoulder, thinking they were safe. The strongest and most skilled soldiers led the front, hitting first and hard. Behind them, more soldiers pressed forward, row after row, their collective weight pushing the front. Just like a wooden wedge splits a log, the Roman wedge split armies. The wedge was used successfully at the Battle of Pydna in 168 BC, tearing apart the unbeatable Macedonian phalanx. At the Battle of Watling Street, outnumbered Romans used wedges to break through Boudicca's rebel army. Perhaps one of the wedge's most powerful features was the pure shock and awe itself. Most armies fought in flat, straight lines, relying on numbers. The wedge ignored numbers, using precision and pressure. One moment the enemy had a solid front, the next it was split in half with Romans pouring in, causing utter confusion. This next tactic was one of Rome's most ingenious, the Corvus. Rome, inexperienced at sea compared to Carthage, needed a revolutionary idea. Their answer: turn sea battles into land battles. Enter the Corvus, meaning crow or raven in Latin, named for its sharp iron spike, shaped like a bird's beak. The Corvus was a heavy wooden boarding bridge, about 11 meters long, mounted on the front of a Roman ship. When an enemy ship came close, the Romans dropped the bridge, and the sharp spike slammed deep into the enemy deck, locking the two ships together. Then, Roman soldiers, trained for land combat, ran across the bridge and began fighting hand to hand, doing what they did best. Carthaginian sailors, masters of sea movement, were shocked. Their mobility became useless. The Corvus helped Rome win its first major naval victory at the Battle of Mylae in 260 BC, capturing 30 Carthaginian ships. It worked again at the Battle of Ecnomus, despite Carthage's superior speed. The Corvus did have one serious setback. It was heavy and couldn't be used in rough seas. But, for a time, this ingenious, brutal bridge gave Rome control of war on both land and water. Next is the feigned retreat, the ultimate psychological trap. A feigned retreat is a classic tactic, but the Romans and their enemies perfected its danger. It looks like a loss. Soldiers turn and run. The enemy cheers and chases, but it's all part of the plan, to draw the enemy forward, making them overconfident and disorganized. Then, at the right moment, the retreating force stops, turns, and strikes back. This approach demands immense discipline. Soldiers must pretend to lose without actually losing control. Romans first fell victim to this tactic in 262 BC near Agrigentum, Sicily, when Carthaginian general Hanno used Numidian cavalry to lure Roman cavalry into a waiting ambush. This tactic shocked the opposing armies because it played with their minds. It made them believe they were winning right before they walked into disaster, turning pride into panic and strength into confusion. We've discussed the offensive strategies a lot so far, but this siege tactic is by far the most grand. In 52 BC, at Alesia, Gallic leader Vercingetorix took refuge in a fortified hilltop town. Most generals would have tried to storm the place, but not Julius Caesar. Instead of a direct attack, Caesar chose patience and engineering, setting a trap that stunned the ancient world. This approach was made of two rings. First, the outer ring, also known as circumvallation. Caesar ordered his legions to completely surround Alesia with a massive line of fortifications. This circumvallation stretched for 16 kilometers, 10 miles of ditches, wooden walls, towers, and traps, completely circling the enemy. No one could get out. Secondly, it was the inner ring, or contravallation. Caesar knew Vercingetorix had called for reinforcements, so he built another line of fortifications facing the other way. This contravallation was meant to protect the Roman army from being attacked from the outside. Two rings, 360-degree coverage of Alesia, and 360-degree defense from behind. The detail was incredible. Deep trenches, some filled with water, some packed with sharpened stakes, high walls, and even hidden pits. Caesar literally trapped his enemy between two deadly walls, like a lid on a boiling pot. It was an engineering marvel. The Gauls inside tried to break out. The ones outside tried to break in. Both failed. Caesar's double siege worked, breaking the last strong resistance in Gaul. Have you ever seen a war elephant? War elephants were absolutely terrifying. Huge, fast, and seemingly unstoppable, they could crush men and horses alike. Roman soldiers initially struggled against them during the Pyrrhic and Punic Wars. But Rome adapted, turning fear into strategy. Instead of attacking head-on, Roman troops aimed for the legs and eyes, weak points hard to defend. Spears, arrows, and side attacks became their tools. Rather than letting elephants crash through tightly packed lines, Romans created narrow passages in their formations. When the animals charged, they passed straight through without destroying the whole army, becoming confused and exposed behind the lines, then attacked from all sides. One of the strangest tactics to defeat the terrifying war elephants involved fire pigs. Actual pigs, covered in flammable pitch or tar, were set on fire and released towards charging elephants. The squealing pigs, combined with the sight and smell of flames, drove the elephants mad with fear, often causing them to turn and run back into their own lines, trampling soldiers and causing chaos. The tactics of defeating these giant beasts didn't stop there. Romans also dug trenches and placed sharp spikes in the ground to block or injure elephants before they could do damage. These tactics worked, notably at the Battle of Beneventum, 275 BC, and the decisive Battle of Zama, 202 BC, where Hannibal's elephants charged, missed their targets in Roman gaps, and ran back into the Carthaginian army, contributing to Rome's victory. The Roman army had absolute control over its soldiers, enforced by the harshest, most terrifying tactic: decimation. Decimation meant killing 1 out of every 10 soldiers in a unit, chosen by lot. It didn't matter if a man had fought bravely. If luck turned against him, he died. The punishment was used in extreme cases like mutiny, desertion, or cowardice. The most brutal part? The unlucky soldier was clubbed or stabbed to death by his 9 closest comrades. After that, survivors faced further punishment, like reduced rations and sleeping outside the camp. This tactic, though rarely used, sent a wave of fear through the ranks and through enemy armies. Roman soldiers feared death in battle, but they feared failure even more, knowing their greatest danger might come from their own side if they broke ranks or disobeyed orders. General Crassus used it after failing to defeat Spartacus. He killed hundreds, not of the enemy, but his own brothers in arms. Mark Antony also used it after a disastrous defeat. This shocking tactic of self-destruction highlighted how far Rome was willing to go for order, control, and loyalty. The Roman army mastered war not just with strength, but with strategy and terrifying creativity. These tactics weren't just about winning. They were about projecting an image of an unstoppable force, a military machine that dared its enemies to even consider resistance. Got a favorite Roman tactic or story? Maybe a history topic you'd like a documentary on? Drop it in the comments. And if you're into clear, compelling history that actually sticks, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching Long History Short, your shortcut to the whole story.